Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Fiona Galbraith. I spent 23 years in the regular army until 2018. I'm now self-employed and spend a lot of my time working to break down the barriers into resettlement into the land-based sector. What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the aim of this session and the course, and then I'm going to introduce Professor John Wibberley, who's going to do what we're terming a micro lecture to give you all a flavour of what we're planning for the course. I'll then introduce you to Professor Louise Manning, who will talk a little bit about the Royal Agricultural University, and that will take us on to a question and answer session. The fourth member of the team who's here is Elizabeth Badger, who'll be handling a lot of the support to the course and is also available to take any questions you have on the process for joining up or any of the practical aspects of studying with us at the RAU. So what I'll do now is just give you a little bit of an introduction and get going. So the aim of this session during this hour is to provide you the information that you need to make an informed decision about whether this rural business career transition course is right for you. I've been working hard and a lot of the team have been working very hard to develop it for a few years actually. And I personally am very convinced it fills a yawning gap in the resettlement offerings. If at the end of the session, though, you've still got questions, please email me or arrange a follow-on conversation, and I'll put my email address in the chat for those of you who haven't got it yet. In terms of the course itself, just to give you a bit of context, during my own resettlement 3 years ago, I became aware of several high-quality courses aimed at developing leadership in farming, food and land management, and they're very good. The problem from the career transition point of view is they're universally aimed at helping talented young professionals break through into the next stage of their land-based career. And none was particularly suitable for an experienced professional seeking a lateral move, so career changes. And looking at the huge amount of structural and contextual change occurring in and around the sector at the moment, there's really never been a better time to move sideways, where new ideas, creative, original thinking have never been more needed. Some of the drivers, which I know John will talk about, and many of them are interlinked, include Brexit, climate change, and the narratives that are associated with that, labour shortages, rapidly moving agri-tech revolution, and of course, changing consumer food demands. So the course outcome here is that successful delegates will have the necessary confidence and understanding to effectively apply their previous career experience to leadership roles in the land-based sector. And I'm very passionate that that is the case. As service leavers, we've got a lot to give. What we just need is a little help targeting it to our next careers. So the course structure is 2 5-day weeks, and central to that is 4 case study visits, which have been selected to build 3 mutually reinforcing pillars. And those are to build a rich industry network, to introduce and inspire delegates to previously invisible career pathways in the land-based sector, and to provide sufficient sector business understanding to give delegates the confidence, skills, and the taxonomy to positively engage with industry leaders and be credible in a management or leadership role. It'll include several high-profile after-dinner speakers, a wraparound coaching package, and also a career-ready package, including professional photographs, a bit of CV support, and we're working on a linked mentoring scheme. So who's providing this course? Well, I run Ruralink, which I founded just before I left the army, specifically to focus to bringing skilled career changers into food, farming, horticulture, land management, and the wider land management sector. Ruralink looks for strategic partners in industry and education to create what I call sustainable career pathways. I aim to break down structural barriers, increase knowledge of the careers available, and support businesses to actively recruit service leavers and veterans. We also do individual coaching and operate a consultancy wing. Why have we partnered with the REU for this course? The REU has a long tradition over its 175-year history of educating military personnel, and actually many retired officers feature on the boards of past members and other staff. One of the REU's richest assets is incredible alumni who are very active in supporting and mentoring following generations, and the community really is very important to the success of the REU. And finally, what is it that veterans bring in terms of soft skills and employability? Service leavers often find it difficult to recognise and articulate the transferable skills they have. And of course, targeting that to a new industry compounds that difficulty. Remember that building on the latent talent for which we recruited originally throughout our service, we've been trained and developed to optimise that potential. Our values, our leadership training, our experience of working effectively under often extreme pressure, and our, as the Marines have it, cheerfulness in the face of adversity, and many of our professional or trade skills transferred directly into current and emerging job roles on the land. As an aside, the recent Centre for Rural Policy Research report called Farm Labour in the UK noted that farm managers can earn up to 90,000, though this is unusual, but more pertinently identified the myriad interlinked and supporting careers which hold up the industry and which we're going to discuss shortly. So I'm delighted to introduce Professor John Wibley, and delighted that he'll be leading the course. He'll tell you a bit more about himself as well, but some highlights. He's run his own business since 1989. He's a visiting professor at the University of Reading School of Agriculture, Policy and Development, and at the Royal Agricultural University, where he was previously the head of agriculture. He works, speaks, leads workshops, writes and broadcasts widely in the UK and overseas, and has long-standing practical and research interests in farmers' groups for agricultural progress. He became a Fellow of the Royal Agricultural Society in 1987 and a Nuffield Scholar in 1988. And I'm delighted to invite him to whet your appetite with his micro lecture now. Thank you, John. John, you're on mute, I'm afraid.
Oh, yes, I obeyed your instructions. You see, I was listening to your military instructions to be muted at the beginning. Okay, thank you. Well, welcome to everyone. This is a taster for the Ruralink veteran course. This is the first course that we have run, and so pioneering has always interested me. The Royal Agricultural University, of course, itself was a pioneer. It's the oldest in the English-speaking world, 1845. And for those of you who have a bit of Latin, there's the motto. On the face of it, it sounds quite banal, arvorum cultus pecorumque, which means cultivate your fields and tend your flocks with care. But this is very much under God. It was founded with 6 shares, increasing to 30 shares in the 1840s, starting actually in 1845. Okay. Next, please. So there we are. The building actually was a copy of a building at Balliol College, Oxford, which burnt down in 1863. But then we were copied by the second oldest institution in the English-speaking world, Ontario Agricultural College in Canada, whose main building is still like this and acknowledges its debt to this building. Now, progress in agriculture, how does it occur? Next, click, please. Thank you, Elizabeth. First of all, we examine values. That leads to vision, and that leads to ventures. So the aim of this course is for you to see some of the values and get under the skin of those businesses that we will be visiting, and interact with us and, of course, with your fellow members of the course. I've always found that particularly ex-army people have been leading in interacting with their fellow students and in initiating progress within the students in a longer course, but certainly also in a 2-week course. Very important. And from that, you will get a sharper vision of where you want to go or where you might be able to go, and the ventures that you would like to be engaged with, bearing in mind your particular aptitudes and skills and that bank of experience that you bring to the whole thing. Okay, so the values are actually the base of the pyramid. From that we develop vision, and from that arise the various ventures. And obviously you want to be in some venture which chimes with your values and your vision for a sustainable future. Next. So you've been farming long? Well, the answer is I've been farming since I was about that size, in various shapes and forms. And sometimes it can be daunting if you're coming from a totally non-farming background. But the aim of this course is to break some of the mystique and to make you feel that you could certainly envisage a career forward in this wonderful sector of agriculture in its widest sense, including horticulture, including the food sector and processing and marketing. It's a very big sector. So as Fiona said, my wife and I started our business in 1989. We're based in Devon. And next, we call it Realm, Rural Extension, Agriculture, Land Management. The objectives I had in starting this business, I was very happy at the Royal Agricultural University and still am as a visiting professor, but we wanted to be able to engage more full-time overseas to combine tropical and temperate agriculture. I'm currently chairman of the Tropical Agriculture Association, if anyone's interested in that area. And we aim to watch our cash flow. Any good business has to watch its cash flow on a monthly basis. And so that was our aim right from the start, to watch cash flow. And to, secondly, next, sorry, no lasting debts. Of course, you may have to have some debt at the beginning of a business. Certainly most people have to have a mortgage to get their home initially, but debt is to be avoided, really. And one of the things I found in my Nuffield farming scholarship study was that the biggest threat to business survival was over borrowing. Okay, next. I do some things for something, some for nothing, and some for a commercial rate. And in that blend, want to provide enough. My aim has not been to maximize income.
Professors exit the roundabout on really on.
Okay. And I also go on the motto which the Royal Agricultural University used to maintain consistently, that the best advert is not having to advertise. And the best advert is a satisfied customer, actually, which would go for this course. And obviously our aim is to satisfy your questing through attending this course in any possible way we can. Okay. And I was advised to beware portfolios and not to sever my academic links, which is why I've been very grateful to maintain these visiting professorships and so on. So that's just a little bit of background so that you understand my kind of approach in my own business. And of course, we've prayed very much each stage and for our involvements. This is very important, as in the college motto. Now, we are at a crossroads in UK agriculture. The UK Agriculture Act passed last year is probably the most significant changer in UK agricultural policy since the 1947 immediate post-Second World War Agriculture Act. And very much the blend of productive agriculture and environmental care is built into this act. Obviously, there isn't time to go into it now, but we will go into it in a little more detail, and we'll see how businesses are reacting to it. Next. We do live in a globalized agriculture. These are all pictures actually of old students in various parts of the world, from South Africa, Jamaica, etc. And the whole plethora of different agricultural contexts and business components. Very exciting time to be involved in agriculture. Now, there are only about 10 multinational food processing corporations that control processed food. And you'll be very familiar with all those names in the middle. Obviously, the rest are too small for you to read, not meant to be read, really. But the Coca-Colaization of the world, it's sometimes called, that is a massive challenge. And it's a massive challenge, of course, to human health, the percentage of processed foods that we eat. It's also a massive opportunity to link agriculture and health in a better way than has ever happened hitherto. Here in Malawi is the only God knows grocery, and this has been the issue that a lot of farmers have risen to the challenge. We've seen an increase in farmers markets and in farm shops. There are certainly at least 500 significant farm shops operating now in this country, and they have grown in percentage terms very significantly during the COVID pandemic. And this enables the farmer to add value to products and sell them directly to the public, and thereby capture a much greater proportion of the retail price. And the whole question of eating locally, this word locavore was coined by the Canadians. A friend of mine has been running the Greater Toronto Agricultural Action Committee, which links producers with the 4.3 million consumers in the Greater Toronto area, and enables, it aims systematically to build those links. So there are a lot of opportunities in this whole area. The whole question of food miles and eating local and eating British and so on. So food labeling has become important. There's a whole lot of food labeling, but more and more consumers are asking, where was this produced? Am I eating local sausages, local cheese, whatever, drinking local milk? Obviously, the poorer the consumer in income terms, the less they buy on these criteria, the more they're just going to go for price. So the whole balance between price and quality and availability is a massive area for involvement. 1 person in 3 in the world works in agriculture. At the farming end, in this country, we're down to below 1.5% of the working population in farming. But when you add on all the food sector, you creep up towards 8%. It's a big sector. Next. Okay, so why viable farming is vital? It's fairly obvious, really, but there are 4 key factors I want to draw attention to quickly. Number 1, sustainable livelihoods. It's very important that the 500 million farming families worldwide can sustain their livelihoods. Without farmers, I read a slogan in Zambia not too long ago, no farmers, no hope. Resource conservation, very critical. 75% of the land in the UK is managed and controlled by farmers and landowners. And therefore, how we do that and how we behave and how entrepreneurial we are, how caring we are, is absolutely critical. Conservation is caring management. Food security, very important. We're only 64% self-sufficient in this country on food. Obviously, we have to import things that we want to eat, like pineapples and bananas, but food security, very, very important consideration. And there are opportunities in that sector. And the whole question of land heritage, the history, the archaeology, and the maintenance and the intergenerational succession of property ownership and management, very, very important. Okay. Now the farmer and the farm business actually sits in the middle of this triangle. On the one hand, at the bottom left, you've got personal and cultural goals. And hopefully this course is going to help you to focus and sharpen what actually are my goals. Where do I want to actually travel? And what sort of business do I want to engage with? There are financial limitations, obviously, And then there's an increasing plethora of regulation and contract requirements. And so some of the leading producers of, say, celery are producing to very high standards for the supermarkets that are extremely exacting. The whole food chain and food logistics is very important in all of this. Next. So valuing farmers. Lots of ways we can do this. Waitrose have their select farm group. We need to talk about fair trading for British farmers, not just for farmers internationally. Fair trade coffee has pioneered the way, but there's a lot to be talked about on fair trading. At the bottom there, you've got the leaf linking environment and farming, which has been going now for 30 years, run by Caroline Drummond. And that is helping farmers to market their produce with a tag of responsible management of their land and their livestock. FWAG, Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, there are a lot of opportunities in organizations like FWAG. They're doing a lot to help farmers to manage their environment, manage their slurry stores, etc. And FCN, the Farming Community Network, I used to be chairman of that nationally. I'm chairman of it in Devon still. That is helping farmers and farm businesses and farm families who are in trouble of various kinds because of the constraints of the days we live in. Okay, so what about opportunities for you in all this? This is my favorite Dutch cartoonist, by the way. He's taking that opportunity. Anyway, what about you? What is your motivation? The famous management writer Charles Handy says there are three sorts of people, and all of us are one, two, or three, or a mix of them. First of all, are you really an administrator? Do you have skills and aptitudes and background experience that would enable you to administer whatever? That's a big need in farming internationally. A business person. Are you a natural entrepreneur? Do you have aptitudes? Are you too risk averse or too risk gung-ho? You need a balance. But anyhow, a business person. And then thirdly, a communicator. Do you have aptitudes and skills and background there where you would like to convey? There's a massive work to do to educate the upcoming generation. More and more children are born into urban homes and are separated from all those chances to learn that happen from a very early age for rural children. So thinking about your type, are you a polymath? Do you actually thrive on variety? Do you have a range of interests and experience? Certainly, I think, well, that's my interest, being a polymath. You know, there is a role increasingly. We are talking with the aid of computers at much more integrated research going on about whole farming systems, rather than just, you know, how much extra wheat do you get if you put on an extra kilogram of nitrogen fertilizer. We're looking at whole systems more thoroughly. So those kind of interactions become possible. What aims do you have? Are you really looking at this because, oh, it's nice to experience a change of scene? No problem if you are, but, you know, is it a very tentative thing, or do you actually have an intention, next, to make a positive difference to people's lives in some way? You're really passionate about caring for, I don't know, scheduled woodlands or the next generation, understanding about how to cook their food, present their food, source their food. Do you have other aims? Do you want to actually build a career of some sort that gives you that satisfaction and continuity, having been within the military in a fairly regimented, literally, kind of structure? Or do you have other specific aims? It's a chance to think in a context which will challenge your thinking. Where do I fit? Where might I fit? Next. Well, this is a thing that Lawrence Couldrick did for the West Country Rivers Trust, which I thought was rather good. You can see the farmer in the middle and all the different sectors that farmer will interact with. His peers, his fellow farmers at the bottom, his family, his land agent, and you can see them all around there. I won't go through all of them, but we are talking about a very wide range of aspects to the sector where you will find somewhere that you can fit. Okay. So what about your preparation? Seize opportunities. Offering enough, I would say. Some of the people who are coming new into agriculture, who are willing to get their hands dirty and do things. I remember one chap said, I'm willing to work anywhere for a couple of months for nothing, just so that I learn the skills. And if they want to give me a thank you gift at the end of it, so be it. I think that kind of attitude is helpful. To build a portfolio of achievements beyond the academic. You will already have some of those, but that's very important. To exchange with peers, job swaps, you'll meet people on this course who have links with sectors other than the ones you possibly already have links with. So if you've got someone who knows about forestry in Scotland and someone else who's into salmon fishing and someone else who produces pigs in Lincolnshire, you know, you interact and provide connections. It's connectivity. And seek help to identify your own weaknesses. I think that's a good idea for all of us throughout our lives, really. And in fact, do a personal SWOT analysis. What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and what threats? And then you get a realistic view of yourself. And review your aspirations and your motivations. And prepare different purpose-written brief CVs. You know, there isn't a one size fits all, but make them brief. Get it on one side of A4, I always say. Okay. And finally, be willing to roll your sleeves up and do the basics first, because then you will learn the reality of that particular chain of activity. I think that's the end. Thank you. Please don't just bash on regardless. This is, I should be asking you, if we were in a face-to-face session, can anybody identify the regiment? It's actually the 54th Infantry of the Indian Army, and it specializes in amphibious warfare. But I quite like its motto in one sense: bash on regardless. Don't be put off by the obstacles. But in the case of this course, we hope it will enable you to regard agriculture and to understand the whole breadth of it better and make informed choices. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, John.
The next one is questions, which is up in the blue sky. If you want to have any questions, I'm quite happy to take them, but I'm in your hands, Fiona.
Yeah, I think if it's okay, we'll I'll invite questions after Louise has spoken, and then we can just roll into a discussion with all of us. So if you have got questions, either jot them down in front of you or put them in the chat box so we can queue them up, and we'll get to those in about 10 minutes. What I'd like to do now is introduce Professor Louise Manning, who is a full-time professor at the Royal Agricultural University and has spent her recent career in the agriculture, well, her whole career in the agricultural sector. She's got a specific interest in food and food security. She farms herself and she has wide responsibilities in the Royal Agricultural University, including for professional development. Louise, please tell us a little bit more about the RAU and indeed yourself. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's lovely to meet you, albeit virtually. And again, if you've got any questions, very happy to talk through them afterwards. So why the RAU? Well, we're the smallest university in the country, which is an interesting accolade to have. And we run a whole series of very specialist courses, both in terms of our undergraduate and postgraduate degrees, but also in terms of our professional development and training. So we work with a wide range of sectors in the UK, anything from banking to insurance to accountants to farmers, land managers who want to know more about the farming sector. And that could be, as John's just been outlining, how to run a land-based business. It could be how to manage people more effectively. It goes right through to How do we actually grow food so it has a smaller footprint in terms of carbon and water? How do we take on board a changing society that is really looking at how we produce food and wanting information to be more transparent and also to reduce that footprint? So when we first started talking with Fiona, we wanted to take all the skills that we had of running a whole range of courses and bring it to this particular course, and thinking about people that have had previous careers that are then coming into agriculture. What skills do they bring with them? And being able to recognise the skills that people bring with them that are of value, both in farming, in food supply chains, but also in all the allied industries. And you saw some of them on John's slide. So what skills do you bring with you, and how can they then be used in the food and farming sector to actually deliver you a career and a way of life that is important to you? And when we're talking to people that are looking to relocate, because we run a number of access courses for people that are looking to come into agriculture for the first time, they're quite varied. And I expect all of you today, we were to ask you, why are you interested in this particular course? Some of you, it might be because you're saying, I love to be outside. I do not want to be working inside. I don't want to be constrained in the kind of job then. Actually, I love working on my own. That's who I am. And I want to be able to look at some of those opportunities. There'll be other people that say, I love being with people. And when you look at some of the horticultural businesses that are taking on 1,000, 2,000 people every summer, the skill set that's required in the agricultural managers, the people that are managing the logistics of the caravan parks and everything else, for people that love that kind of work, that are fulfilled by getting things right, going back to what John had on his slides, there's a whole range of opportunities. And this course has been designed for you to get a snapshot of some of those different kinds of opportunities, but most especially how you can build your skill set. And what the RAU prides itself on is then being able to support businesses with the networks that it has. So obviously, being one of the oldest English-speaking universities in the world, we have a vast alumni network, and that alumni network goes right across the world. We're also, as a university, very closely linked into some of the major food and farming networks. So the Worshipful Company of Farmers Network, we run a course for them, and we have a large alumni base, and there's a whole range of opportunities with them. We're closely aligned with the Institute of Agricultural Management, with BIAC, that is the British Industry of Agricultural Consultants, and a whole range of others. So the other advantage of being on this course is the whole aspect of us being able to link you to people, either businesses that are going to present formally or other businesses that we align ourselves with. And I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'll open up for questions. The other really important aspect of the Royal Agricultural University is that we have an agri-tech, an incubator and accelerator on the campus, and we have a Gloucestershire growth hub. So we have a whole range of businesses that are based at the university, and with the agri-tech accelerator and incubator, for people that are members, they have access to a whole range of support about how they build their business ideas, and being able to access finance to take their idea from the product right through to commercialization. And in the 3 years that Farm 491 has been open, we've raised 31.8, probably I've got a meeting later this week, so numbers probably gone up, but 31.8 million pounds worth of funding for our businesses, where we've supported them to develop their pitches and linked them to finance companies. So I believe that we as a university have a lot to offer to support this course and to work with Fiona to be able to develop a course that fundamentally supports you if you're looking to transition into the food and farming sector. So I'm going to stop now, but very happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Louise. If anybody has got a question they want to ask, nobody's written anything in the chat. So please do uncloak yourself. I'll stop the recording now, so don't worry about that.